really glad that you're our friend, and this is a friendship that'll never ever end.
It's been made very clear over on Raw these past few weeks that the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, is seemingly targeting Randy Orton. For many, it's a dream match. Orton, the Fiend. The Fiend obviously wants to right the wrong that is Randy Orton, but what did Randy Orton do to Bray Wyatt to warrant such a demonic presence? Some people theorise that the whole reason that we have the Fiend today is due to Randy Orton. But let's start this video with a little bit of a theory, okay? Notice how the Fiend appears behind Orton in the picture. He's done this to John Cena, and it's something we've seen the Fiend do, but it's also what we've seen the puppets do in the past. Puppets appear behind superstars backstage. Literally, we see one example on screen, but even literally the Raw just gone, Ramblin' Rabbit appeared behind Randy Orton. And I just wonder if there's a similarity between the puppets and the Fiend because of this certain action. Just something to remember. But this video is going to be slightly different. This video is going to look almost like a recap of the rivalry between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, why everything's happening now, and of course discussing this and thinking about this, of course I've got theories. Towards the end of the video there will be theory-packed action. In 2016, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt were involved in a rivalry. It come down to this moment in a ring where Kane and Orton had Bray Wyatt where they wanted him. It looked like Bray Wyatt was going to get defeated. Randy Orton, however, actually saved Bray Wyatt. He RKO'd Kane, joining Bray Wyatt, his nemesis, his enemy at the time. The two formed a team along with Luke Harper. It was the new Wyatt family, and Bray Wyatt, as the master, would show Randy Orton the path. He would guide him, and it was a successful partnership. Bray and Orton went on to win SmackDown Tag Team Championships in 2016. Randy Orton would go on to 2017's Royal Rumble, where he would win the WWE Royal Rumble match. He would then have the opportunity to challenge the world champion of his choosing at WrestleMania. Now, this got very confusing when literally the next month, Bray Wyatt won the WWE Championship in the Elimination Chamber match. Now, that meant that Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton might possibly face each other at WrestleMania. So you can see the seeds were planted here for the turn. You didn't know how it was going to go down, but it did look like Randy Orton wasn't going to challenge Bray. He went to the ring, he pledged his allegiance to Bray Wyatt and said that he would never face Bray while Bray was the WWE champion. But the ever-coiled Viper had other plans. Appearing on screen, he randomly was at the Wyatt family compound where he told Bray Wyatt that this was not his world. This was Bray's world. And Randy went on to burn down the Wyatt family compound. Probably one of the most famous scenes in Bray Wyatt history, and I think most of you will know it. The compound was so important to Bray Wyatt because it was the burial place of Sister Abigail, the mother figure of Bray Wyatt, the person that Bray Wyatt has seemingly dedicated most of his life and career to. That happened to it. Bray would get to a new level of sadistic when he covered himself in what was the ashes of Sister Abigail, declaring that her presence was now among his, and the two shared their vessel. And basically he absorbed Sister Abigail's powers, and this was an ever-powerful Bray Wyatt. To combat this, Randy Orton would use the crucifix that we've recently seen on the Firefly funhouse. He would literally use this to push into the heart of Abigail to take some of that power away from Bray Wyatt, and that is basically what happened. And oh yeah, Randy Orton became WWE Champion at WrestleMania, defeating his former partner Bray Wyatt for the title on the grandest stage of them all. In 2019, we was introduced to the Fiend. This is the dark demonic presence that has forever lived in the body and mind of Bray Wyatt. It's here to right the wrongs from Bray Wyatt's past, to complete Bray Wyatt's circle the right way. And when you look at the opponents the Fiend has faced so far, it's easy to identify what they did to Bray Wyatt in the past. Finn Balor was meant to have a match with Bray Wyatt. It could have been one of the best of all time. Bray got injured and the match couldn't happen. So Bray went after and completed that destiny. Daniel Bryan, of course, turned his back on the Wyatt family. Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt had a storied past with the Shield and the Wyatt family. Braun Strowman, who I don't think's finished with the Fiend just yet. I think the Fiend might have more for Braun in the future. But Braun, again, was another member of the Wyatt family that Bray Wyatt said had went his own path without Bray's permission, sort of thing. So maybe there's something more in the future, because the two never really finished their feud. But that was why Bray went after Braun, and why he went after all the people you see on screen right now. Randy Orton, however, wow. This guy, from what we've just talked about, took the WWE title from Bray Wyatt. Stole a WrestleMania moment from Bray Wyatt. Turned his back on the Wyatt family. Fooled Bray Wyatt. Killed the soul of Sister Abigail, Bray's parental figure. He burnt down the sacred compound. It becomes very easy to see then why The Fiend and Randy Orton is such a big feud for The Fiend, because there's so much history and so many wrongs that Randy Orton has perpetrated against Bray Wyatt. This is also what people theorize, that maybe the entire existence of The Fiend was born by Orton.
Bray, you are a god.
Now that's from one of the promos that Randy Orton cut with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family when he was still fooling Bray Wyatt that he was part of the family. Now, you saw the flicker in the eyes of Orton. Now, you can fake a lot of stuff. How do you fake that without Bray Wyatt realising it? Simple. Maybe he didn't. Maybe back then, Randy Orton let him in without even knowing it. Maybe. Just maybe. Now, back in 2019, when the Firefly funhouse debuted, it was clear that over Bray Wyatt's right shoulder in this picture, there is a hook on the wall. Something was missing on the wall of the Firefly funhouse. It became apparent very, very soon, when Bray Wyatt painted the picture of the family compound being burnt. The fire was blazing, and he hung that picture in the funhouse, and it's been there ever since, a constant reminder of what happened. This birthed the theory that the Firefly funhouse was all about memories, and that Bray Wyatt was there to remember his past, which fits in with what we've seen The Fiend do. Fast forward to 2020, Bray Wyatt has moved to Monday Night Raw, and while he's unpacking his boxes, he brings out the crucifix. Again, what we saw Randy Orton use to dig into the heart of Sister Abigail. It's also what Bray Wyatt used to perform what WWE called a dark ritual on Randy Orton. He basically cast a spell on Orton all those years ago, before Orton dug it into the ground, before Bray brought it to the Firefly funhouse. This, again, is a memory. It's something that triggered in Bray Wyatt's head when he remembered what this was all about, reminding him Randy Orton. He never forgets, and he never forgets because he's constantly surrounded by those memories. And some people are even saying what we're seeing with Alexa Bliss is in relation to Randy Orton. Of course, we saw this weird transformation where she seemingly stuck something out of her mouth. We don't know what it is, whether it's goo, blood, her soul, or a tongue. If it is a tongue, that may be a hint at a Viper-like character. Maybe she's going to be like the Viperess or something. I don't know what the female Viper's called, but it's possible. Maybe Bray is transforming her into a female snake-like creature. I don't know. Could be. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. But are we actually shocked by anything the Firefly Funhouse does anymore? We know Bray has always spoke about the reptilian people, and obviously we have to take into account that maybe that is what Alexa has become. Maybe there is a connection between the reptilians and Randy Orton. Obviously, reptile, snake, viper, Orton. It kind of makes sense. But if we are going to go down the route that the reptilian people are connected to Randy Orton, and we got to beware of Orton for that reason, we have to ask, who the hell are the triangle people? However, now the Fiend has kind of been introduced to Randy Orton, it is clear what the Fiend wants. Revenge. And it leads a lot of people to believe that the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, will now go after Randy Orton and become the WWE Champion. I don't think so. I've racked my brain about this match. Coming up at Survivor Series, it's meant to be WWE Champion Randy Orton versus Universal Champion Roman Reigns. However, they have said on numerous occasions now, if Randy Orton is still WWE Champion come Survivor Series. So it does make you think maybe there's a chance Randy loses the title before the pay-per-view, which could make sense. The Fiend will obviously want Randy Orton to lose that title. Randy took the title from Bray. It makes poetic justice sense for Bray to take the title from Orton. But maybe not. We know the feud between Orton and Drew McIntyre is not over yet. So maybe the Fiend helps Drew McIntyre become WWE Champion again. That way we get Drew versus Roman at Survivor Series, which I think face versus heel makes a lot more sense. Of course, that frees up Randy Orton, although I don't think they'll do it at Survivor Series. It seems a little bit too quick to rush into the match, but means Randy Orton's not on the card. But neither's the Fiend, and it maybe frees up Bray Wyatt to do something historic at a historic Survivor Series pay-per-view. We all know the curse of Bray Wyatt winning the championship. The unfortunate truth is when you win a title, you have to lose the title. And the Goldberg one definitely was mismanaged. Definitely the wrong booking choice. The Roman one was a little bit better. He didn't get pinned. He didn't really care. He never went back and challenged for it again because it was part of the prop in the Braun Strowman story. And I kind of feel like you don't want to keep going down that same route of Bray becoming champ just to lose it. But the end goal is to get to Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Well, you can easily do that at TLC, at the Royal Rumble, maybe even at the Elimination Chamber. You can then free up Orton to face Edge at WrestleMania, maybe even The Fiend versus The Undertaker, or whoever else. It doesn't matter. But you can do this feud while Drew McIntyre is WWE Champion, while Drew McIntyre is then busy with The Miz. It frees up both people and gives us still a pretty good match at Survivor Series between Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments section of the main video. Thank you if you joined the premiere. I do appreciate it. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Follow me over on Twitter at CWrestlingUK. I will see you as always next time. Peace!
I'm born again, Randy.